Okay, so Cecilia, thank you so much for meeting me. How's your day going?
It's lovely. It's great to be here with you.
Yes, and the museum is so beautiful.
It's absolutely is. Yeah.
You chose a great spot. I never would think to come here for a meeting.
Oh, really? It's a wonderful place to meet.
Yeah.
It's one of the great pillars of Cleveland art scene.
Fitting for our conversation because we're artists and we want to share our art with the world and we want to be able to discuss what inspired you specifically, concert pianist, international concert pianist, I'll say. So let's just jump right in.
Sure.
Your love for music, performance, education, and teaching is readily discernible. How did it all start, or is it something that developed over time, or is it something you've innately always felt?
Sure. Well, my mom is a piano teacher, and so I began quite young. I was about 2.5 when I started.
Oh, wow.
Tickling in the piano, and then joined a music course for young kids at the Yamaha Music School. And then when I was about 13, I was accepted to study in the studio of the first female pianist, Indonesian female pianist, who studied with Leon Fleischer at Peabody and played, I think, with the New York Phil. And when I got into her studio, I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then I got the invitation to join the Young Artist program at the Cleveland Institute of Music. And my parents, had to give up their youngest child, so to speak. But my teacher then said, if you don't take this golden opportunity right now, it'll probably never come again.
Right.
So that's what brought me to this part of the world and how it all began. But yes, music is always deeply connected with my way of expressing myself and the way I make sense to the world around us. So.
You mentioned something very interesting, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. You have to know when to do it, and you have to know when it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yes.
So it's good that you were able to recognize that.
Yes.
I think many people miss things because they cannot discern or determine that this is such an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm very blessed that my parents and my teacher, so that that the opportunity came, and a few other friends of the family also helped, and so all the right things just aligned.
Yeah, I'm glad they did because we would have never met.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we could have otherwise.
Right.
In an alternate universe.
At the cafeteria at the Museum of Art. Yes, you're
or
right.
We could have met in New York.
That's true. You're right. Absolutely.
Paris.
Paris sounds good. Yeah, I'll take that one. Yeah. So, you have a lot of experience, really vast. How do you sort that all out? What is your particular approach, would you say, in teaching or in performance?
I try to be the medium between the composer and the audience. Mm-hmm. So whether that's my own playing or if I'm teaching, I always try to go back to the score and go deeper into the music and see what the composer is trying to express.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Because I've learned too that sometimes an artist can get too in their own head about what they think should take place, but it's not about them. It's about faithfully rendering the text as much as you can because it was their story.
Right.
It was their life. It wasn't ours. It was theirs.
Yes.
And they're not here to defend themselves to say, no, I didn't intend that to be that way, and I wrote it this way, but you did what you wanted to do. So now it sounds the way it should not sound,
Yeah.
So that's very important.
Yeah. And I think it's also important then to work with living composers, right?
Oh, that's a good
because
thought.
Then you get to have this conversation of like, well, you wrote it this way, or at least this is how I'm interpreting what you wrote. Is this exactly what you'd like to hear? So that dialogue and keeping the music alive, I think it's super important too.
Now that's a conversation for another time.
Exactly.
Another article. Yes, because you just opened up my mind in 10 different avenues, having a conversation with the living composer.
Absolutely.
Very
Many of
interesting.
them.
Yeah. Wow. See, this is exactly why we're talking. So, you and I did a master class recently at Cleveland State University. I was so nervous, but you were so kind.
You did great, Nina. You really did. It was a beautiful performance of the Beethoven sonata.
Thank you. So it got me to wondering, how do you shape a master class? How does that all come about? What is the process for doing something like that?
Sure. Masterclass is a special event because unlike lessons that you see every week, this is like a master chef going into a 5-star restaurant and just taking a little taste of what the dish that the chefs have been making. So, you can't say, well, start over making that base stew. You kind of have to deal with the layer up at the top, right? It's like, well, that's already great. Maybe, put a little bit more garnish here or add a little bit more salt to that sauce, whatever.
I see.
So the masterclass is fundamentally kind of finishing touches, right? Because it's expected that the performance is already polished. However, with that, I think you can still do a lot in getting deeper again into the music.
I see what you mean.
And then connecting with the student and learning how they interpreted, how they got to that understanding of the music. And the hope is that you give them a better understanding of their own way of approaching certain pieces, right? And also the listeners. So it's not just not the particular student playing, but also the audience, so that everybody learns from the process of, okay, what do we do with this black and white printed score, and how do we make it a 3D experience, oral experience?
Beautifully said. Okay. It's beautifully, the way you expressed that, I could imagine everything you were saying, from the chef to the garnish to adding the finishing touches. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I understand that illustration completely, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, because we stew on the pieces that we play, right? It can happen. You don't whip up the way you would do an omelet.
No, I hope not.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. You marinate it, you
right.
give it a test, and then. So.
Very good. Okay, I understand a little better now. You also did a part 2 in your master class where you did a lecture and you spoke about performance anxiety, breathing techniques, and learning to cope with the daily task of balancing life with academic endeavors. What were the key points, and what are still the key points that you want students and anyone who is juggling a variety of circumstances to know?
Sure. Yes, in the recent years, with the sharp increase in mental health disorders and anxiety, depression, and unfortunately the suicide rate, attempts and both cases of attempts and cases, I have been very much interested in bringing that to the conversation, bringing mental health to the conversation. And one of the key points I'd like for students to know is, number one, when they're in the late teens or early 20s, their brains are still developing.
Okay.
And so all the emotional connections and stuff, that's still, it's not totally set yet, right? And that number two, stress is normal. right? Uncomfortable situations are normal. It's actually how we grow, right? When you're facing discomfort, for example, in learning a new task, whether it's a new piece or new material in your physics class, it doesn't feel comfortable because you don't know it, right? So what's normal, what is necessary is that stress level comes back to normal. So what becomes the problem is if the tension is held over time, too long and with no reprieve. So another key point I'd like for students to know is that not only that it's normal, but there are people who are going through similar things, and there is help around. And one of my last hope is that we, as a community, we raise more cultural empathy.
Oh, that's a very important one.
That we help each other. Have conversations about it. Be open about it. Yeah.
And many people are not open about this topic because, there's a stigma that's attached to it.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a shame or embarrassment. They feel that they will be shunned or teased or looked down on or misunderstood.
Absolutely.
So I think that, as you were mentioning, it's a conversation that will never go away, nor should it go away, because everyone, we need reminders.
Yes.
We don't hear something one time and say, oh, okay, I'm going to do that now.
Exactly.
That's why the commercials on TV run relentlessly, and after you've seen it for 2 years, you finally, I think I do need that item.
Yes. You're absolutely right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Repetitions and exposure, right?
Yeah, right. But using it to our benefit holistically and health-wise.
Yes.
Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. So I want to shift to the performance aspect of your career. As a performer, are there instances where you have trouble knowing how to specifically practice a certain passage in order to get a particular result? In other words, can you at times hear in your head what you want to produce, but for some reason you're having trouble knowing which technique to employ to get the result? How do you handle that? Or does this even happen to you?
It doesn't happen. Ever. I'm just kidding, Nina. Of course it happens all the time. I think this is why the music is so interesting, right? And there's never such a thing as a perfection. And
No.
There's no one way of doing it. And we all strive to get a better understanding and the right way of expressing, right? So how do I deal with it? I look for inspirations from other musicians. I try to listen a lot. I imagine a lot. Great performances. For example, singing line in Chopin. How would Maria Callas or Renee Fleming?
Oh, I love
sound?
Maria Callas. Yeah.
Yeah. How would they sing this line? Double thirds. Listen to Lakme, the flower duet. And percussive sound. How would the percussion section in the Cleveland Orchestra sound? Right. And something's soft. Well, are you listening to it? Somebody whispering, or is it a softness from a piccolo player in Severance Hall, projecting all the way to the top of the balcony, so that kind of combining vivid imagery and audio, I don't know what you call that, the sensory, or, just the
your
image
mind's
that
eye.
Your mind's eye, thank you, your mind's eye and ear.
Yeah.
And your fingers will try to find that. As long as you have the time to practice calmly, right? These kinds of things, it takes time, right? I saw a great interview with I.M. Pei once, and he talked about rock sculptures in China, and rock sculptors don't know what the end result of their their art would be. It's crafted partially by time, by water, by air,
Erosion.
right? Erosion, exactly. And so I like to think that our art is continuously evolving as we get older.
Oh yeah,
And
makes
our
a lot of sense.
experiences inform our art. So that's what I try to impart to my students in both master classes and teaching in any situations that I have, is that our performance is not final, right? Ever.
No, never.
This is why the greatest pianists are still playing the same pieces. Like it took Schumann 10 years to write his G minor sonata, and so it's okay for us to work on it for 10 years or 20 years, 30 years, because it's just, this is great music. This is what happens.
And it's a living thing, because it's living inside of us.
Exactly.
And as we continue to live and breathe, our perceptions alter and change and adjust based on our experiences, and then we bleed that over into what we produce.
Yeah, just like the greatest actors, right? How they interpret Shakespeare. When they're young, they might play a certain role this way, and then when they get older, they play a different role in that same play, or they get deeper into their interpretation.
And their understanding has intensified.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And I think the older anyone becomes, their understanding of anything should broaden and intensify, and become to a point where they want to express it in any way that they can.
Exactly.
Not just with the instrument, but also it should be reflective in their relationships with people.
Absolutely.
That they're more now of an adjusted person than they were a long time ago, or even just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You could come across something and it can change your life literally in an instant. Yeah.
That's the beauty of life, right, Nina?
Yeah, it is. So, I have a question about a student who may not understand the difference between virtuosity and musicality. What would you say to them?
I would say listen and go to more concerts. Go to museums. Go to.
I'm glad you brought me here today. Yes.
Go to see, visual performing arts. Dance, circus. Connect with humanity. Like live music is not about the black and white and the fast technique of playing something. Sure, of course, it's thrilling to play. Rachmaninoff or Prokofiev as fast as they can. Or Kapustin, incredible. Mastery, but life is too short to just play the notes.
Right. It's like you have a car and it has the capacity to go 200 miles per hour.
Yes.
What does it mean that you should?
Go to the grocery store or the library.
No, and can you control that speed?
Exactly.
And that's the thing that I've wondered over the years when I listen to recordings of other pianists or musicians playing things, and it sounds so fast. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is really fast. But then I think about, if I tried to play something that fast, could I control it? Would I sacrifice the emotion of it? Would I sacrifice the nuances of it? Would I sacrifice the deeper meaning and understanding of the piece? It's like if you sit down to eat your favorite meal, you savor it.
Yes.
You don't eat it in 4 minutes.
Yes.
I hope you won't. You throw it back up. You wouldn't it wouldn't digest.
Right.
So the same with performance. It's not about the fastness or the swiftness, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
We're trying to help people, an audience, understand and digest a beautiful performance.
Yes.
And for some musicians, it may not be at 90 miles per hour. You would prefer 70 mile per hour etude, but you're bringing out the melody and the lines just as beautifully.
Right. I mean, of course, there are certain repertoire like the Ligeti etude, or non-caro studies that was literally that were really literally written for player piano. To be as technical as possible. But it's just like your diet, right? Like you can't
Exactly.
live off one specific type of food only. You got to
That's
nourish
true.
your soul some other ways too.
Oh, that's true. Yes, good analogy. Well, people are really going to enjoy.
Get hungry by the time they
Here,
listen
right?
to this.
They are. But they're going to enjoy your analogies and your illustrations to things that they can relate to. You know, everyone can understand eating a meal, and the chef, you know, preparing those special ingredients to do the finishing touches. So that's the good teacher in you.
Thank you. Or I just love eating.
That too. So you travel a lot. We opened this conversation with you speaking about your roots in Indonesia and how you came to us in Cleveland, Ohio. So in your extensive travels and countless students that you've educated and worked with, how do you personally know when you have made an impact on someone? Or is there a certain feeling or a unique signal that your body gives you when you've made a connection with someone?
That's a great question, Nina. I mean, you know, you and I just met back in November, and I think we made a connection.
We did,
right?
Yes.
So, I think when you see people eye to eye, you connect with them in a different way than seeing through, for example, the Zoom screen interview kind of thing, right? But also there's a certain musical understanding, or, you know, we all kind of speak the same language, right, in terms of connection. But how do I know if I'm making an impact? I don't know. I certainly hope I do. But I never know, right? I never always know.
Do you have students that come back and report and tell you years later?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I have a couple, and that always warms me. You know, when I see them or hear from their parents. You know, my former prep students or something. You know, like the ones I taught at CIM back in, in early 2000. You know, they're now doctors. Oh my God, wow, cool. You know, that's great.
That's a lot of impact,
they're,
I'd say.
You know, finishing their study at Yale, and it's beautiful. You know, I don't know how much of it's credit to me, but I think a lot of it credits to music and the personal connection that they had, that we had built together through music. And yeah, so my mission to teach is to introduce that sense of love for music, and that you can express yourself, not just, you know, with your words, with your written words, and but also in other ways, you know, in different language, just music, which is beautiful, right?
Yeah, I think we're beautifully created in that our language, our vocabulary is, I think, the least of the way that we can speak to someone.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, we speak when we want it to be ultra clear, but you can tell in someone's body language and their smile or their eye contact with you.
Even just a raised eyebrow can express a lot, right?
You got the whole picture just from that. And then when they open their mouth and actually say something, it's like, wow, it's confirming what you already knew before they even uttered it. Exactly. So you're right, you're definitely right about that.
Yeah. But with everything that we do, I think as teachers, it's time. You know, you're investing in everybody's future. This is why it's so important for me, because education is an investment. Like you don't get the instant reward that you're getting, or, you know. So
but the payoff is bigger and greater.
Well, I hope.
Yeah, for sure,
right. In terms of the more people, the more kids are exposed to music and arts, I think the better our community will be, the better our world will be.
I agree with you, and I think what we were speaking about in the previous question about the emotional connectivity, because when you have someone who's well adjusted within themselves emotionally and artistically, oh boy, they can move mountains.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a well adjusted individual.
Yes.
And I think art and music plays 90% of the role in that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. So, Is there anything to be said about a link between performance quality and warmth and empathy inherent within a person? In other words, do you believe that people who are naturally compassionate have an enhanced ability to produce a distinct tone and emotiveness in their performance? I mean, I know some pianists that are really, really warm, not just pianists, but people in general.
Yeah,
They will
yeah.
give you their last dollar. They are so loving and so kind.
Yeah.
And you can hear it when they're playing. It's like they're imagining that the piece of music is a person that they're helping and that they're cooking for, or that they're helping them with their chores, or just you can tell that they have this person in mind and they're just being very loving and kind and compassionate toward them.
Yeah. I think there's certain truth to that. I have not met all the performers that I heard live, right? For example, so I don't know what they are like. But speaking from experience, for example, having met Richard Good and Mitsuko Uchida a few times and hearing them play, they are kind people. That Garrick Olson, like the depth of his tone. It's hard to imagine that they are not soulful people, right?
Right, because it would follow
Exactly
the performance.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's a great question, and somebody should do proper research on it. But the sample pool, you can imagine, is huge, right?
Huge, probably.
And yeah, I don't know. I had a teacher. I played in master class once, and I played Chopin Andante Spianato, and the pianist said to me, I could see that you're really a lovely, warm person.
Oh, wow. See, that's exactly the type of thing I mean, yeah.
But then he said, but I'm missing more, like I don't have enough edge to my playing because it's just so pretty,
Okay.
So I think you kind of need everything else.
Bit
You
of
can't
assertiveness.
just... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think you can approach, Bartók or Shostakovich piece with all just very comfortable, lovey touch, right?
No, of course not.
Otherwise, you won't have the drama and the edge.
No.
Just as when you watch great movies, I don't think those villains are terrible people in life.
I hope not.
Yeah.
But it seems like some actors, it comes a little more natural to them than
I know.
others. It's like, it was too easy for her to pick that knife up.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
But yes, I know exactly how you feel. It's like, oh wow, she didn't even blink.
Right, exactly.
So how can we translate that to music?
Right.
That's what's I think is always fascinating.
Yeah.
When we're so lucky, the literature is bottomless, right? And luckily we don't have to pick up any knives.
No, never with piano. No, maybe other things in life. We're cooking, as we were talking. Cooking.
Yes, cooking.
I want to clarify that to everyone. I meant for cooking. So tell us, is there anything in the developmental stage that you just completed or that you're working on that you want to share with us today to be on the lookout for?
Sure. I'm happily working on 2 chamber music pieces right now. I'm working on piano quintet for violin, viola, cello, and double bass piano.
Wow.
And Brahms piano quartet in C minor. But the quintet, the quintet is by Ellen Taffy Svili, American composer. And she is 85, 86 at this point.
Still a living composer, what we were talking about earlier.
Yes. And it's a very cool piece, kind of sounds jazzy. So I'm playing these 2 pieces next month, the end of February in Lyndhurst with Marisato, violinist Marisato.
Okay.
Lynn Ramsey, violist, who just retired from the Cleveland Orchestra. Ralph Curry, who's still in the orchestra. And Tracy Rao is double
Oh, that
basses.
sounds like an amazing
So
performance.
it's I'm looking forward to this program. So
How
it's
do we
for-
get
It's
tickets?
for it's the Cleveland Chamber Guild series. I don't know if it's probably free to public.
Okay.
I will let you know.
Okay.
So that's what I'm working on in the next couple of weeks, and then I have a couple of recitals in the East Coast where I'm doing something called something old, new, blue and borrowed.
Oh, I like the switch around there. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm playing some Bach, Schumann, Margaret Bonds, Emily Meyer, and also Indonesian piece composer.
Okay.
So kind of a mix of everything.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And will you be performing some of that here as well?
I hope so. Yeah,
Oh,
I have to
okay.
find some venues to run through the program, so we can absolutely. I would love to play that for friends in Cleveland as well.
Oh, that would be awesome. I look forward to that very much. Very much. Very much. So I have a bonus question to end out our conversation. Is there any moment at any time in history that you wish you could have been on hand for? What was that moment?
Oh, it's so hard to pick, Nina. This is a loaded bonus question. I would love to hover and watch how, for example, Angkor Wat in Cambodia, this temple was built, or the Borobudur temple in Indonesia. How centuries ago those were built without modern machineries. How the Egyptian Sphinx or the Notre Dame in Paris. How did these great monumental structures were built? Just the architecture of it and the human power
And the precision of them
precision
also.
exactly. So yeah, I don't know if I want to live in those times without clean water and modern heat and all that, but boy, I would love to see just if there's only photographs of those times, right?
Coming into fruition.
Yeah. So that's something.
Well, spoken from someone who travels the world, as you yourself are extensive in your studies and your performances, and that's why I enjoy speaking to people who do have extensive world travel, because you can bring us so much, and you can bring us a perspective that we may not really think about often. So I appreciate that part of your background in your life as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you asking me, inviting me to speak with you and to do this article. So thank you.
Thanks so much for your time. It's been fun. I think we should go get a burger now because you made me hungry talking about all this food and chef and everything. I think I'll need a knife to cut the burger, but okay.
Well, thank you so much, Nina. It's been a pleasure.
Me too. Absolutely. Thank you.